Welcome to the 27th and final week after Pentecost for the liturgical year 2023-2024. Today is Tuesday, November the 26th, 2024. And this is the Manna at the Tap podcast, where we actively seek the spiritual nourishment of our pray. The daily lectionary reading we explore together is the manna, designed to nurture our spiritual growth and provide the sustenance our souls need. I'm Gloria, your fellow traveler on this spiritual journey, and together we share insights and interpretations from these readings that enrich our spiritual life. Today, the lectionary reading is from Psalm 63. It's a psalm written by David while he was in the desert of Judah, running from his enemies who wanted to kill him. The Judean wilderness was a hot, dry, and barren land, barely able to sustain life. Its food and water resources were scarce, and David was physically thirsty and hungry. But as the psalm opens, David looks past his physical needs and toward his spiritual longing. He cries out, "Oh God, you are my God. I seek you. My soul thirsts for you. My whole being longs for you in this dry and parched land where there's no water." As he entered the wilderness, David began to feel an emptiness within and spiritually distant from God because he was far from the temple in Jerusalem. He longed to experience the intimacy with God he had known when he worshiped in the sanctuary among the people. But David will not allow the physical distance to separate him from God. He will use his holy imagination to remember what it was like in the sanctuary, being close to God and knowing God's presence. It was in the sanctuary where he beheld God's power and glory. And his desire for God is so needed in this moment that he reminds himself that God's love is better than life itself. That is God's steadfast love, mercy, kindness, goodness, and faithfulness. This is the Hebrew word hesed, Hesed. This describes all of God's love for us. So instead of eating food, David directs his mouth to praise the Lord, and he wants to do it for as long as he lives. Instead of using his hands to feed himself, he will lift them up in praise to the Lord. From the sanctuary, his holy imagination will take him home and to his bed. Between sleeping and waking, instead of dreaming about wealth or power, he focuses his thoughts on God. His faculties draw him near to God, and he glorifies God. Instead of planning how to attack his enemies, he sings in the shadow of God's wings, and he clings to God who will help him. This is where David can take refuge because he genuinely feels loved and secure. His longing and pursuit of God reflects his deep trust in God to deliver him. I hoped you noticed as you read this psalm, there are no words of petition, there are no laments, because David is confident that God will act to ensure that those who persecute him will be destroyed. His priority is to rejoice in God, leaving his enemies to fall into the hands of the living God to be destroyed. As we end the liturgical year this week, this psalm can serve as a model for cultivating a thirst for God as we look forward to the new liturgical year ahead that begins on the first Sunday of Advent, December the 1st, 2024. Love and desire are part of what it means to be human. It is not a matter, though, of whether we love or we have desires, but it is what we love and how we direct our desires. What we love shapes our values, expectations, and practices. This psalm directs our desire away from the things of the world and toward the things of God. It invites us to cultivate a thirst for God and to nurture a desire or passion for God because he is the only one who truly is worthy of our love and our desire. Let me just give you a couple of minutes to ponder what you've heard today. The words in Psalm 63 are as sparse as the vegetation in the wilderness. They are simple yet direct. They invite us to reflect, and that is enough. Life is difficult. Life is hard. We need to reflect about the tough places and how we can nurture our relationship with a living God. We want to experience a deep well to quench our thirst and open up our desires to know the love of God. God's love is better than life itself. It is Hesed, Hesed. This is the spiritual work that we can do. Enjoy God's Hesed so that we can live through the desert times in our lives.